it goes back to the conversation that even Mistaken agreed with Marcus and his resolution. Imagine she's being emotional and you're saying, I'm up here, I'm up here, I'm up here. And we all agreed that he should be down here. He shouldn't be as emotional as she is, because then it escalates to AP's friend situation. So somebody's got to take the role that's not emotional.
I do think it is situational. Like, we would expect a man to cry if he lost a parent, right? If he lost one of his parents. But in that situation, he lost a child. So I would have expected him to cry. It wouldn't have made me look down any less or anything like that. It would have made me actually feel closer to him, because in my mind, I'm feeling like it's bothering me way more than it's bothering him. But for him, on his side, is I wanted to be that rock for you. I didn't want you to see me break down. So I did that on my own. And then that made me feel bad, because I'm like, wow, you shouldn't be going through that on your own. That's what I'm here for. We're supposed to be leaning on each other. So I expected him to cry. That would have been a situation where I think I would need him to be stoic, so to speak. You know what I mean? But that was just a learning experience for both of us in that, in that moment.
So it was a miscarriage, right?
Yeah.
So I think if I was to put myself in his shoes, the main thing I would be trying to ensure is that you didn't, like, because sometimes people will blame themselves for stuff and try, like, so I wouldn't want you to feel as though you affected me to make you sadder, because I feel like it would make the situation that much worse. So like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Even if no matter how you felt, you don't want to make her feel worse by showing this, you know what I'm saying? Like, it may be how we internalize things, but yeah, I think he handled it the right way too.
It made me feel worse. Like, I was hurt that he had to carry that by himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, as his wife, I am there to provide emotional support too. It's not just on him. You know what I mean? So to feel, I don't know, it just hurt me to hear him when we talked about it, that how hurt he was, but he just carried that weight and did it, dealt with it on his own. While on my end, I'm feeling like, man, how come this isn't bothering him as much as it's bothering me? Only to find out that it did. But he, like I said, carried that weight on his own. And, that hurt me, that he felt like he needed to do that to be a man. You know what I mean?
But what's weird to me, Mistaken, though, is, and you're right, that should bother him. But it's almost like you want him to do what it is that you want him to do. You want him to, you understand what I'm saying? It just seems like you're very...
No, it wasn't that. It was, I guess, the way that I interpreted the way that he was trying to be there for me in that situation where I wanted us to lean on each other. He just wanted me to lean on him. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. You said that I got mad because he wasn't feeling the same way I was feeling. So your anger...
No, I didn't say I got mad. I was sad. I was sad that he had to deal with that he felt he needed to deal with.
No, you said before you knew the conversation that you guys had, you were sad because he did not feel the same way that you felt. Because you went along thinking that he didn't feel the sadness of the
yeah, like I said, Enos, he was so stoic to the point that it felt cold. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's what it was. It made me feel like maybe he didn't care as much as I did. And that was just because it was like, I guess what Marcus was saying, wanting to make sure that I was all right. So he put himself aside and didn't really deal with it the way that I guess I maybe had a certain expectation or thought that he would have. I don't know. But
remember earlier we were saying the line for a good man or a good woman was when you put the needs of other people before you. He was literally being that in that
Doing
moment.
the exact
He
same
put,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
See, I can't even tell my story when you say that. Dang it.
So, anybody else want to go? Is it a long story?
The way I tell stories, it could drag on, so I'm not going to.
Did anybody else want to add on to the conversation? I think that, do you think that because we don't allow men to, that's why men are so detached on everything? Like they can't get close to anything. Like maybe the attachment to the kid is just too much. Like just I'd rather just be distant. Like I'd rather just not even get involved. It's like even when it comes to relationship, I'll just be in a detached mode. Like it's only sexual. I don't even want to put myself to that point to fall in love. Like, do you think that leads to the reason why men are so detached in the way they move in different situations? Go ahead.
I think we naturally compartmentalize, but I will say, due to the way that we psychologically, biologically wired, that if a man expresses too much interest in a woman before she expresses that same amount of interest, it'll scare her away. It'll push her away. So, like
but we're talking. I'm not even talking about before. I'm talking about months and years down the. I know too early. I'm not saying fall in love the next day, baby. I love you. I'm talking about a natural time.
Right. I think that's a healthy a healthy skill would be like learning how to compartmentalize until you're sure that's the right thing, and then because it's again running your emotions through the logic filter, right? So you have to make sure that this is the right time to feel this way, this is the right time to behave this way, because as much as people might advocate for him, nobody wants an emotional man, an overly emotional man. Nope, nobody actually wants that. And I think so when you was just describing that, somebody might have heard mistaken. They might have heard, see, they want us to be emotional and they not met, because nuance is a thing that we struggle with. They want us to be emotional, and then not only is nuance a thing we struggle with, the way we communicate also. So you were expressing that, I know what you meant, but there was somebody who would have heard that story and taken a complete different meaning of, this is what you wanted from him and you want him to lower himself, and then when he does it, you're gonna leave him because you seen him we communicate in different ways. You just kind of got to let some stuff be.
So they kind of talked about this last night, but they didn't really dive into it. So I'm going to kind of pose this question to the panel as a whole. I just sat here and thought about it. I think men are actually more emotional than women, which is why we must be stoic, because if we allow our emotions to show, they will the intensity of our emotions are 10 times what I think women fully understand in regards to how we experience it. So when we talk about anger, right, it turns into rage. When we talk about sadness, it turns into detachment, like complete detachment. So I think we have a 0 or 100 scale. Is that accurate to say? I mean, I don't know the science behind it, so I'm curious. Is that accurate to say?
So I'll say that for men who don't have emotional regulation, if you don't have the tools to temper yourself out of extremes, I think you were absolutely correct. Right? I think the issue is, to what Marcus was talking about, is that there's this double standard that exists simultaneously for men and their emotions, right? Women are pushing for men to have a certain level of emotion that mimics the way women express emotion, with the lack of understanding that men just express their emotions differently. Doesn't mean it's better, doesn't mean it's worse. They are just simply different, because men are men, women are women. If we were the same, then we could expect the same thing, right? But at the same time, because women are pushing for this kind of symbiosis in emotional expression, they also aren't used to it, so they don't handle it with the level of care that women have been taught in previous generations. So I think that's the thing that forces men to these extremes where, as a man, when I am expressing emotion, the woman that I'm with is not understanding, and then she's not handling it with respect and handling it appropriately. So now I have to have an even bigger reaction for her to actually understand what it is I'm feeling. So I think men don't have the tools to regulate themselves on their own. And I think women are fueling the fire, but also not having the tools to handle what a man's emotions look like when he's communicating them. So I think the two things combined create this really toxic environment.
Y'all ever like been able to observe a very emotional man like at length? They are dangerously unpredictable. Like dangerously unpredictable. Like
JP.
dangerously unpredictable.